Okay, I'm somewhere here, and we're going to have a little chat with someone, and could be emotional at times, but anyway, we're going to have a little chat. And what's your name?
I'm Isabelle Hains. I'm from Bathurst, New Brunswick.
And something bad this week happened 3 years ago, right?
Not bad. Tragic.
Tragic. What happened?
I lost my son, Daniel.
And that
Daniel Hains in a 15-passenger van.
Mm.
They were coming home from a hockey game in Moncton, from Moncton.
Mm. And how many kids died?
There were 12 people in the van, and 4 survived, and 8 were killed.
Okay, let's go back. Let's go back in time.
If I could,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
no.
be here today.
So true. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to January 1st. The accident happened the 12th. Let's go back to the 1st. How was your life?
The first one, I had a normal life.
Yeah. How was it?
Life, just like every regular family, you know.
Mm.
We have our children. I work.
You work where?
I work for the federal government.
And the husband work?
Yeah, he worked, and my children went to school. My oldest was going to college, and my youngest was doing his last year at the Bathurst High School. And he was graduating that year, and he was pretty excited about it. His last year in school, and he wanted to participate in all the sports. He wanted to join everything and be active and have a good, fun year in his last year of high school.
And everything was fine? Happy family?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Just normal family?
Yep.
And in those days, did you know who was the premier, or were you involved? Did you like politics?
I wasn't interested in politics.
No?
No,
You were
I
smart
just figured
then.
that the government. No, I just figured the government did their job, and I did my job as a mom, and I worked and took care of my family.
And who was the MLA? Who was the MLA then? That would be Brian Kenny, right?
Yeah.
Did you know him? Did you?
Well, I knew of him, yes.
But you didn't go out of your way to meet him?
Well, I didn't have no reason to.
No. You just survive and raise a family and
Well, make a living, you know.
make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And everything was great.
Everything was great.
Okay.
Was great.
Was great. And then we come to January 12th.
Actually, it was the 11th on a Friday, and the 12th after midnight, 8 minutes after midnight.
What do you
when
remember?
the tragedy happened. Well, you know, I really don't want to go back into that
No.
dark place. And but all I know is that 8 innocent people died that night, and as I learned over the last 3 years, that the federal government knew enough about the 15-passenger vans.
Hold it. That's what I want to get into a little bit later. The accident happened, the tragedy happened, and you had the funeral, and all New Brunswick, all Canada was in mourning.
Mm-hmm.
And
As always is when a group of children are, when a group of children lose life at such a young age.
And then the funeral was over. When did you start? I know you never stopped grieving, but when did you begin asking yourself some questions?
Right after.
Right after?
Right after. When
Question
the principal
like-
first came into my home, when her and the mayor came into my house, I wanted to know what happened and why the children were out in bad weather conditions and why they didn't stay in a motel. And I got answers like, yes, we have money for motels, but I didn't know anything yet about guidelines or the policies yet. I had to do that search
You didn't
on
know
my
anything.
own.
You didn't know anything.
No, I had to find out on my own.
Yeah.
They weren't volunteering any information, that's for sure.
No, and they were
They
very...
wanted to let it rest.
Hmm.
And that's where I wasn't getting any answers from anybody.
So once you start asking yourself questions and you have no answers, did you expect the government to step forward?
No, because I wasn't there yet at that time about the government. I was still trying to find out we were still trying to find out about the reconstruction report and the RCMP report. Where that was all.
Oh yeah, that's right. The RCMP made an investigation.
Mm-hmm. They did. Yeah, we all had to wait for that first, the finish before I could find anything else out because the RCMP was doing their report. So once we get, some of the answers some of the questions to my answers might be answered through their report, but not really. It wasn't.
So when did you go from mourning to angry?
No, there's no. When people say different stages, mourning, angry, there's no such thing as that. Honestly, there isn't. And angry, I can't really say that I'm angry. I felt very disappointed in the government and the Department of Education and the system failing my son Daniel and the children by not following the guidelines. When I found out a few months later that there were guidelines there that they had put out years before and were never followed.
So who did you contact? Okay, you wanted some answers. The RCMP was going to do an investigation. But you wanted answers. And knowing you, like I've known you since the past couple of years, you wanted answers quick.
Well, you never get anything quick. When I started to realize that after with the government, you don't get answers quick. And after the RCMP report, the reconstruction report, we had to wait for the RCMP report. And after we received that, there was nothing there that made me feel that the children's traveling for after-school activities were still not safe, or that the school didn't set out a priority for the children for after school. So that's when we realized that we need a coroner's inquest.
We'll get to that in 1 second. Okay, this is the end of part one.